Thank you, thank you.
Can you hear me? There we go. Well, I hope you're having a good time so far. I know I am. And it's a real pleasure for me to introduce Phedra Redifer. Phedra is the Executive Director of Workforce Solutions for North Central Texas, which is an organization that does a lot of work in workforce readiness, tremendous amount of skill sets that you transfer to the community. She has more than 20 years experience in the workforce development and public-private partnership collaborations. She's held key roles in the City of Dallas, the Metropolitan Park District of Tacoma, cool, and a Fulbright scholar, which is pretty amazing. She studied international politics in Germany and interned at BMW. This is going to be her session to talk to us about the current workforce trends and strategies for career readiness. Great to have you, Phedra.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing? Great. It is so exciting to see each and every one of you. I can share that as I was driving down from Aledo, I thought, oh my gosh, it's such a beautiful day. We might not have anybody. So let me just share how excited I am that each and every one of you is here and that you're placing such a priority emphasis on learning more about workforce and workforce development. And all throughout what I'm going to share is really centered around each and every one of you and how critical you are in today's workforce and for generations to come. So really excited that you're here and that you're prioritizing not just your education, but also where you go from here on your professional pathway. And hopefully, I will share some great nuggets of information that you can take with you. And at the end, I will allow for questions and answers. I certainly want to make myself available to you all. I do get super excited talking about workforce. It is a huge passion that I have, and it's because there's just so much opportunity around each and every one of you, those who are not in the room, and certainly what we need to do to better understand the future of work and where we have a responsibility to make sure to keep it sustaining a very healthy level. So really quickly, I just want to share, and this should be of no surprise to all of you, especially because of where you are and where you're getting ready to go in your professional pathway and of course your career, but the state of workforce is going through significant change. And that means we all have to change and adapt as well. And I'll go into the organization that I manage, but I can tell you that we are going through unprecedented changes, adjustments in levels of funding, and of course, sometimes support that we can provide. So it is absolutely important that we keep a pulse on the job market, we keep a pulse on workforce development trends, and that we make sure that we are paying attention to all the things that are really starting to transform and shape the future of work. A couple things that I'm going to talk about too that are really important to each and every one of you is great that things are happening out there, but what does that mean at the national level? And then how do we distill it down to the state? And then I'll share with you the region. Now, I'm going to be speaking about the 14 counties around Dallas and Tarrant counties, but each of you play a role in that and are connected to it. So I'll share a little bit more about that. But so often I think that sometimes people will speak and you wonder, well, how does that fit in? How do I link to it? So I think it's really important first to really address what some of the national workforce topics are that we're grappling with. And of course, you've probably seen so much of this, and I will advance my slides. I'm so sorry. I sit there and I just talk, and then I forget I got a clicker. So forgive me. So what's really important, again, as I mentioned, is looking at the workforce topics at hand. Living wage. As we all know, it is hypercritical that we in our country can make a livable wage. A livable and sustaining wage. We have many people that are continually struggling and are actually below the poverty line. The way that we can really affect economic development and sustainability for this country is to make sure that everyone who wants to participate in the workforce is earning a living wage job. That is economic mobility, and it is also economic freedom. So that is absolutely critical. Another piece that we're really grappling with in the future of workforce and some of the topics and meetings that I'm in at the national level is the cost of work. Certainly wages have gone up. We saw that recalibration, if you will, as a result of COVID. Things are starting to settle back down. We're not seeing these salary wage wars like we used to. That dust has kind of settled, but you know what hasn't settled is the cost of benefits. Healthcare benefits, just general employer benefits, the cost of doing business. That is also a major topic that we're grappling with because those costs continue to increase. And there is not much flexibility we have in what those particulars are as it relates to workforce. Flexible workspace. So you've seen on the national level, some of the national CEOs are mandating that employees go back into the office. Good, bad, ugly, it's up for everybody's personal opinion there, but there are a lot of shifts of going back into the office and what does that look like, and then also recognizing that employees really had a lot of leverage in COVID and on the back end of COVID, and still do for a certain amount of workers where they want to work at home. I think we've all recognized based on COVID that work-life balance is paramount in how we're all moving forward, but how do employers grapple with that? And then the demands from employees, there has to be a common ground, right? There's got to be some give and take, but that continues to be at the forefront when we're talking about national workforce topics. And of course, AI. I'd like to bust a myth really quick. We are not getting rid of the workforce, the human workforce, because of AI. What AI is doing is evolving our workforce. There are critical positions that are still needed that only humans can do, but are there some lower tasks that AI can help us with so that we can free up humans to do these other critical thinking type portions of work, if you will. But I just want to make sure that we understand that AI is not replacing the human need for workers. It's just not going to happen, but it is shifting the way that we go about our work and how can we rely on technology and AI to do some of those administrative operations type tasks that free us up to do other things that only humans can do. So keeping some of those in mind, I think, is critical as we look at what the future of work looks like. So what I'm going to do right now then is really distill it down into the state of Texas. If you listened to Governor Abbott's State of the State last night, Texas remains a very healthy state for doing business, and it will for the foreseeable future. We are so well positioned in the state. We are big and bold on business. And if you, and hopefully, are focusing on staying in the state of Texas, I would say hats off to each and every one of you. There are abundant opportunities in the state of Texas. And it is all about you all just to lean into what those opportunities are. And you can see from the statistics that I have on the screen, this is impressive. If Texas was its own nation, we would be 8th in the world. That's pretty significant. I know that I don't want to leave the state of Texas. This is hopefully where I will end my career and my life, if you will, because all things are green, right? Everything is pointing in the right direction. Couple stats I just want to show to all of you is that we are the largest energy producing state in the nation. That won't slow down. We have 26 commercial airports. That means that we are constantly bringing and sending people in and out of this state through aviation. Those individuals who are coming are dropping big dollars and doing big deals in the state of Texas. That is really great for us. Of course, we're the #1 U.S. exporter for 22 years in a row. That's pretty substantial. You know, our GDP is quite healthy. And then, of course, we have more than 15 million people participating in the civilian labor force. What does that mean, the labor participation rate? That means that 15 million people are actually looking or they have a job. That's significant for the state of Texas. I also want to share, too, something that's very important. The number of small businesses that we have in this state, 3.2 million. That does actually continue to grow, and we need to make sure that we do everything that we can to support those small businesses. So buying local, buying in the state of Texas, absolutely huge, and recognizing that this country was built on the backs of small businesses, and we need to continue to support their growth so that they can continue to support not only our economic state of healthiness, but also to employ workers, right? Think about all those small businesses that actually employ entry-level people who then have professional mobility upward, which that equates to economic mobility and economic freedom. So we really do appreciate that. Okay. So this is a data snapshot sheet that I really want to show to each and every one of you. And I'll get into more about our organization here in a minute, but I wanted to first ground you in a little bit more content and context related to workforce. But this right here is a service area data snapshot. This is for the 14 counties, we like to call ourselves the donut, the 14 counties around Dallas and Tarrant counties. So this is all labor market information that we share out in each of our particular counties in our region. What we did for today's purposes is we actually looked at the 14 counties as a whole because I want to demonstrate to each and every one of you how healthy we are. Right? So there are significant jobs, significant growth, significant economic impact happening in these 14 counties. And oh, by the way, we are in one of those counties here in Tarleton, right? In Stephenville, Erath County. This county is booming. The significant investments and certainly the investments that the university is making is huge. I remember when our son, we actually have a nephew who goes here right now too, but when we came through orientation, we were just astounded at the growth that Dr. Hurley was actually projecting, and it's happening. Every time I come down, I'm like, well, that building wasn't there, and oh, look at that, that dirt parking lot. You know that's not going to stay there for very long. So economic growth is happening in Erath County, and it's happening right here in Stephenville. In fact, we work with the Economic Development Authority here in Stephenville as well. We provide a lot of business supports to them, and we have a really strong partnership, and it's just through the roof in terms of everything that they're doing for business and economic growth, which of course that means needed workforce is a top priority for them, right? We can't have all this big business if we don't have people working. So I'll talk more about that in a second. So in our 14 counties, we're sitting at around 3.5 million people. That's a lot. When I first came back to the state of Texas, and I'm from here, I always say that. When I first came back to the state of Texas, we were at about 3.2, and that was just under 4 years ago. That is how rapidly we are changing in the state of Texas, and certainly in our 14 counties. And I'll show you another visual in just a minute where you'll actually see why this is happening. You can see the projected growth, almost 650,000 people in the next 5 years. That's a lot. And I think about that all the time when I commute from Aledo, if you know where that is, just before you get to Weatherford on the west side of Fort Worth, and I commute into Arlington every day. Takes me about an hour and 10 minutes each way, right? When I first started about 3 years ago, it was probably 40, 45 minutes, and my mindset is these are people going to work. It's going to be okay, right? It's all about mindset. But it is showing that we have a lot of people who've moved into our area, and hopefully a lot of those people are actually going to jobs. Also important to note that the living wage average is around $44,000. That's a pretty important number for us to be laser focused on, because as you know, that's just to get by. That's not all the other things that people like: cell phones, subscriptions to whatever social media handles or whatever that may look like, or going out and buying clothes all the time. This is kind of bare bones. We have got to get this number up. How do we do that? Is that we continue to attract big businesses, small, medium, and large businesses, I should say, that have different levels of employee positions, but that we're not looking at the bottom of the barrel in terms of what we're paying for entry-level workers. We have to set the bar for employers who are coming in. We have to have a diverse range of pay for positions, but you can't have a company that comes in and only pays, let's say, minimum wage and there are 1,000 jobs and that's it. That's not going to work very well, because those individuals will not have upward mobility opportunities. They won't have an opportunity to increase their wages, which means they start to get stuck, right? And then they start to rely more and more heavily on support services, which is where we, city, county, and state, and federal government come in. But we really want to get people in, and we want to get them up, because we have a lot more people coming into entry-level jobs, and this is good for the economy. But as I shared earlier, the labor participation rate, so in our 14 counties, you can see that we have just about 66% who are actively looking for a job or are active in the workplace. I will share, and this is a staggering statistic for the state of Texas. We're diving into it a little bit more. It's actually a company, it's called Measure America. We have 500,000 youth, 16 to 22 years old, who aren't in school and they're not working. 500,000. That's a lot. That's our future workforce, right? So we, in workforce development, we have to do everything that we can to partner with these great education institutions, and we have to be able to better link the professional pathways, just like what you're learning today of great to have an education, and we got to get you in the workforce, right? It just needs to be a seamless transition, and so that's why so much of what we do is really centered around our educational partners, and I'm just so excited to have the opportunity to be here with all of you today, because Tarleton is a very, very strong education partner of ours. So when you're looking at this snapshot too for the North Central Texas area, I think it's important to look that it's not just having a high school diploma, and it's not just having a graduate degree or higher. What we look at the health of the market is how can we make ourselves more resilient to what's happening to us when it comes to local, state, and global economies, right? So when you look at this, this is actually quite healthy. We would rather see that we have diverse degrees, diverse education attainment, because that's where the bulk of our jobs are right now in the state of Texas. We typically, on average, the state of Texas fares better than the country on average when there is volatility happening in there. What do I mean by that? Meaning we typically have a lower unemployment rate, and we have more people in the workforce when you're looking and comparing us to the national averages, and that's where we want to be. And so when you look at the diversified degrees that we have, we do like to see that it's spread out and not in one camp or the other. Not sure what all of your professional pathways are, but I do think it's important that you're looking at the top employers for these 14 counties. Also, the industries with the highest concentration of employment. That means that they have significant job openings and are projecting significant job growth. Those are important areas in the sectors that you all should be looking at. And then, of course, we do labor market studies. We're looking at emerging trends. Very, very important for all of you and those who are looking to exit out of post-secondary education, looking at what those fast-growing industries are, and even when they're choosing their career pathways. But what we do is, like I shared, we look at a ton of data. We analyze the data, we pull labor market information, and this is a really good snapshot, a healthy snapshot for the 14 counties around Dallas and Tarrant counties. So what are some of the topics that we grapple with at the state level? So migration and growth, and I actually want to show you this slide because this will really pinpoint what I mean by migration and growth. So you will probably often hear, if you've not heard it already, the triangle in the state of Texas. So we have had significant in-state migration to the Dallas-Fort Worth region, to the Austin-San Antonio region, and then of course Houston. We are referring to this as the triangle in the state of Texas. The challenge with this is that there are many of our counties, I think we have 254, 256 counties in the state of Texas. You can see in some areas that we've had significant amount of movement and residents moving out of those counties, moving to the larger metropolitan areas. While good, because they're chasing those jobs, it is stripping our counties, our rural counties in particular, of having a residential base, which means there is no tax base, or it's a very decreasing tax base, which doesn't help very much. But it is important to note that this in-state migration has shifted significantly, and so much of that is a result of COVID. It was happening before COVID, but even more pronounced post-COVID, and so you can understand now why we're all grappling with more people on roadways, infrastructure challenges, and keeping up with natural resources, because so many people are pulling on all of this in the triangle, if you will. So another slide I'd like to share with you all is related to the skills gap. So we have what we call a middle skills gap, and I'll refer to that first before we talk about the skills gap. But middle skills, and you'll hear this a lot in workforce, is that you have a high school degree or diploma, and you don't have a bachelor's degree. So you're kind of in the middle. That's the middle skills gap. Those are your technicians, your auto technicians, your HVAC, your plumbers, construction, trades. That is a critical missing component in today's workforce and for the foreseeable future. We do not have enough people coming in that area, and that's alarming because AI doesn't do that work. Right? I can't have AI come in and fix my dishwasher. I can't have AI plumb my house. These are significant critical trades gaps that we really need to continue to work in building. And so we do a lot of that in middle school and high school with the relationships that we have. Because the other thing too is that you can actually graduate from high school right now and make probably 5 to 6 figures in the skilled trades. It's that healthy right now. So make sure that when you are going out there or people are talking to you, these are very credible, high-paying jobs, and they're in demand. So keep that in mind. It is not to be looked down at all. And we're finding that more and more people, younger people, are actually recognizing that because you get fully benefited, you make great overtime money, and a lot of people can actually get in early and then get out early as well. So really seeing a lot of that. But the skills gap, to get back to that in general, is really to talk about this is what an employer needs and wants per the job positions and the job descriptions, but they're not finding those skills out in the marketplace. That is a skills gap. And what's creating that is that we have so many new jobs that are coming on the market, cybersecurity, AI, how to code this, and so forth, is that we don't have those skills coming out of the school system or people with skills ready to step into those jobs. So that skills gap is a critical area that we're focusing on in workforce development as well. So it is great to have a healthy workforce, but as you all know, if some of you have children or know of individuals who have children, great to have a job, but if you don't have childcare supports, you can't keep that job. And childcare is a critical issue that is keeping people from the workplace. It has gone under a microscope, as you all know, as a result of COVID. It has stressed a lot of families to make some decisions to go back to one-income families because childcare is so expensive. But it is good that we are all placing a very major emphasis on childcare and all the supports that are needed. We are the only state so far that combines childcare efforts with workforce development efforts because they are interlinked. One can't exist really without the other. Are we going to fix the industry that early learning programs, so childcare owners, they're on thin margins. They're barely making a profit. Are we going to fix all of that? No. But we do have a heavy priority and emphasis on doing our part with all the levers that we have to help shore up the childcare industry. So we have what we call childcare deserts, and we do actually have a couple out here in Erath County and a lot in our rural counties, is where you have more children than we have available childcare slots. And so oftentimes we find that families will take care of other family members. Sometimes people will set up makeshift childcare facilities, just doing whatever they can to patch it together so that they can go to work. What we do in workforce development is we work with early learning programs, childcare centers, to help them keep their doors open, number one, but we also work with them to provide scholarships to families so they have access to affordable childcare. Because again, we want people in the workforce, but we recognize that if they don't have access to childcare, they're not going to be able to keep that job. So we tackle both, and we're making great strides in the state of Texas, which is really nice to see. So you may wonder, well, how does this all come into workforce and what they do? So this is where I get really excited to share more information. So we are one of 28 workforce development boards in the state of Texas. And we are really focused on helping industries and businesses remain competitive through job growth. We make sure that job seekers have access to training and upskilling, and we make sure that communities are economically prosperous and resilient, and you do that by building a very solid workforce. So how do we do that? Well, it all starts with the pipeline. What are we putting in the workforce pipeline that is going to actually result then in a healthy workforce? Well, it's very important, and I applaud each and every one of you, is developing your skills. You're taking education very seriously. You've actually been part of a curriculum that's helping build your education base and get you ready and equipped for full-time employment. We also attract businesses to the state of Texas. You might have seen on the slide before, I think we have 50 and growing Fortune 500 companies coming to here at the state of Texas, and we continue to get more. They need workforce. So there is no shortage of jobs in the state of Texas. Many people come here too because we have more openings than we have people actively in workforce. We want to flip that, right? Well, make it even, let's put it that way. And then of course, innovation. We get heavily involved in innovation, and actually we are so excited to be partnering with Tarleton. We actually just received a grant from the Texas Workforce Commission. It involves Plug and Play and the Entrepreneur and Innovation Center here at Tarleton, where we will be able to infuse programming and curriculum to build tomorrow's entrepreneur and helping with innovation in all things related to the economy and workforce. So this next slide, let's see. Oh, I think I skipped one. I apologize. Oh, I got so happy. Look at that. I think I'm missing one of my slides. Let's see. I'll go here. Okay, so one of the ones I would like to talk about is the target occupation list. I would encourage each and every one of you to write down or at least remember this website. It's dfwjobs.com. That is our website. Again, dfwjobs.com. You can also scan the QR code. This is where we compile labor market information, and we're able to show, I think we have 167 in-demand occupations for our 14 counties. And it specifically lists what those occupations are, and then you can drill down and actually see what other types of diverse job openings are associated with that occupation. Really, really critical information. The other information that we put on the website when you scan this QR code is we look at the high demand sectors, right? High demand growth. This is where the jobs are. We're projecting at least 5 years out all the strong growth in these areas. This is where you all should take a look as you're charting your professional pathway after you graduate from Tarleton. Real critical information. So what I'd like to share really quick, and I don't have this in my PowerPoint, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of looking back and forth, but you can see up behind me, we do actually have quite a few of the high demand industries outlined here in the North Central Texas area. And these should be of no surprise to each and every one of you. So you can look at healthcare. Again, that's not going to go away. That's going to continue to be prevalent, I think, across the country, but certainly in the state of Texas because of all the people who are moving here. You can see what the median annual salary is, and of course, we also layer in what the credentials are for these occupations. It's important to understand, yes, here's what you can earn, but how do you get jobs within those occupations? What is the education attainment that you need in order to qualify and to see where your upward mobility opportunities are? You can also see information technology is hot on the market, skilled trades and technicians like I just shared, and of course education. This is across the board, middle school, high school, post-secondary. We have more and more people here, and we need to make sure that we can combine education and all that we do to equip tomorrow's workforce. And of course, high demand roles and industries, I just shared about that, but information technology, you can see the particular roles, the diagnostic medical support staff, so those who are reading x-rays, CT scans, those are critical. All of that information, those specialty trades and skills, those are in high demand right now, and the money follows with it, which is really nice to see as well. And of course, you look at the education credential highlights, you should know what all of those are, but really just taking a look at where we see a lot of the different credentials and the associated jobs with them. And we can certainly make this PowerPoint available to each and every one of you following today's presentation. So again, just really want to go back to Workforce Solutions so you can see where we fit in the middle of all of this. As I mentioned, we really look to develop skills for individuals, we attract businesses, and we need to feed a workforce pipeline to them, and of course supporting innovation because that is the future. So we have 12 workforce centers in our 14 counties. We actually have one in the vicinity here of the Stephenville campus, the Tarleton campus. This is where anybody can go in and they can register for some of our services. They can get resume building help. They can access the Work in Texas website, which are all the job openings in the state of Texas. And then you can see what the skills are, what they pay, and that is a direct connection to actually seeing what type of employment opportunities are available to each and every one of you in the state. We do a lot more in these workforce centers as well. We host hiring fairs. You all may have seen it possibly on your university website, but we actually have a direct link to our workforce center. So I would encourage you all to find the Workforce Solutions link, and then you can see when we actually bring in regional employers in order for them to do hiring fairs. More often than not, these employers are coming in and they're hiring people Johnny on the spot. So nice to see. We really try to cinch the time of when people are looking for a job to when an employer is able to hire. We actually bring them all together at our workforce centers, and more often than not, it lands a full-time job offer at that point in time. So as I mentioned, childcare is a really critical need that we have. Workforce and childcare do need to work together. It is important that we provide quality childcare as well. So we actually support early learning programs and we support professional development for their educators. We like to give wage stipends so that we can continue to invest in the education or educator workforce because we know how critical it is that our future workforce really starts at birth. And the more and more that I study, the more and more that I do the work, if we don't have children who are in quality child care centers during the day, and if they're not prepared for kindergarten, we've already started to see the slide. And then we try to catch up throughout the education system, and then sometimes they just continue to slide. And that's our future workforce. So the investments that we make early on in early childhood development and access to quality care pays dividends for tomorrow's workforce. Again, these are some of the trainings that we do. We provide so much support to employers, and again, it is all about getting individuals skilled and upskilled so they can attain the jobs that they're going after. And here are some of the ways that we assist, and again, we're in each of these categories. So we're at the K-12, post-secondary, adult literacy, and training providers. And again, I do apologize. I think there might be a different PowerPoint, but we're gonna power through this. So I apologize if I have to look backwards, but I can do it. So some of the milestones that we have with with Workforce Solutions, these are impressive numbers, right? We served over 87,000 job seekers alone last year. What does that look like? Well, we help them either write a resume, we help them with interviewing skills, we help them connect to employers. We provided a lot of supports to them, and again, all of that was an effort to ensure that we can connect them to full-time employment. Another category that we work with are veterans. So as you all know, they are actually in demand. They have highly transferable skills from the military to civilian careers, but what's so difficult is when we're in the workplace and we're trying to articulate what those transferable skills are. And we do that in our workforce centers, and so we're able to work with many of our employers in our counties who are particularly looking for veterans because of the transferable skills and obviously the discipline, the accountability, the responsibility. Those are in-demand characteristics, and we're very excited to be able to help those who are transitioning to civilian careers. You can also see that we helped a significant number of people with different types of certifications, licenses, attainment. We will continue to invest in dollars, and I'll just give a real quick example. When you come into one of our workforce centers and you qualify for our services, we can then enroll you and provide free access to training and upskilling so that you can get that job. Right? There are some caveats, of course, but our services are free to each and every one of you, and that's again because we do everything that we can to support workforce development. And of course, we have a number of employers in our 14 counties, but we touched just over 9,800 employers last year. We offer apprenticeship programs, so earn while you learn, right? As you all know, we all just can't stop working and train. That our society doesn't allow for that anymore. So it's really important that we work with employers and we establish apprenticeship programs. And more often than not, and I can say this with utmost confidence because of the employers who we work with, more often than not, they want to have your essential skills dialed in, so your soft skills of how to converse, show up, be responsible, eye contact, and things like that. But more often than not, we're finding that employers want to have those types of individuals because they want to further invest in you once you actually have that job. They don't want to undo what you're coming in with. They want to train you. They want to customize you as their employee, and they want to continue to make investments in you. And so we're seeing a lot of that happen as well. So don't always think I have to have everything perfectly lined out. I have to have all the skills and I have to have all this experience. We're finding today in the marketplace that you don't. Employers recognize now that they have to be engaged and they have to understand that they also have to invest in each and every one of their employees, and that's actually nice to see. We also, as I mentioned, with the child care supports, but on average, we have just over 8,100 children in child care every day, and we have to feed these numbers down to the Texas Workforce Commission because we're required to do this, but this is extremely important because that means for every parent or guardian behind one of those children, they're actually working because we're able to provide those child care supports to them. And again, this is how we come full circle with workforce in being able to sustain and continue to be on a healthy track for the state of Texas. So a couple things that I wanted to share that I apologize again that I don't see on the slides, and I do apologize about that, but what I wanted to share is that we are one of 28 workforce development boards in the state of Texas. So as I shared, we're the circle, the donut, around Dallas and Tarrant counties, but if you don't live in this area and you go back to your respective communities, I highly encourage you all to connect with your local workforce development board. We are all labeled the same Workforce Solutions something. So there's Workforce Solutions Capital Area, which is in Austin, Workforce Solutions North Central Texas, which is us, but we provide a number of services to you as an individual and then also to families who might be struggling to get by. For example, child care, as I mentioned, and then also if there are food insecurities or say, for example, you don't have enough money to buy a tool belt in order to show up for that job the next day with the required tools, we can help supplement that. So we do and offer all of these supports. I think what's really important to note, and I'll actually bring this back up to the federal government level because of everything that's happened within the last week, but we receive federal dollars through the federal government that come down to through the Texas Workforce Commission, and then those dollars are distributed out to the 28 workforce development boards. The 4 departments at the federal level from which we receive our grant dollars, the Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Labor, Department of Education, and the Department of Agriculture. So all of those federal dollars, millions and millions of dollars, come down to the state of Texas. There's an algorithm that happens based on demographics, how many people live in your counties, and then the dollars follow and come to us. This current year, I am managing $138 million in workforce development dollars. That includes childcare. So we have $20 million all focused on workforce. We have about $92 million focused on childcare supports, and then the rest of the money stays at the board level where I have my direct staff. I will share that there was a little bit of a pause when the executive order came out from the president. With the executive order that those federal dollars that could potentially conflict with the administration's priorities are going to be stopped. Happy to report that we're fine, which is really good because that affects all the people who we serve in our 14 counties and throughout the state of Texas and of course around the country. But these supports exist, these federal dollars exist because it is absolutely critical for the future health and economy of the country that we have a skilled, ready, and participating workforce. And again, couldn't be more happy for all of you to be here today, and I would like to open it up to any questions that you might have for me. Yes, ma'am. I'll take.
This is very insightful. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say based on the different education background, so you have a high demand industry job, right? From the healthcare to education even. Since we are a PhD student, okay, let's say for giving the example of mine as well, I'm a PhD student. So if I need to look after the industry job, so how do I look after the industry job, particular based on my education background?
You bet. So really happy to share that if you go to our website, again, dfwjobs.com, we have posted our data dashboards. And in those data dashboards, we have actually shown the projected job growth as well as mapped it to career lattices and education attainment. So if you want this job, you can start here and you can pick up these certifications, these licenses, these degrees. You can increase your economic your wages, if you will, by participating in that. And that information is on our website for all the different types of occupations that are showing high demand growth in the 14 counties over the next 5 years. So I would encourage you to go there to look for that information. That should help you. Did you have a question in the pink? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Concerning the child care, I'm a doctoral student and I'm also a mom of one. So it was kind of difficult to get my child into childcare because I was schooling at the same time. I'm a graduate teaching assistant, and I have to go to school and I have to work and I have to attend to my baby. But I was given the option to work with the workforce solution. But at the end of the day, I think it wasn't really open for international students because I really do not know, because I am a doctoral student, maybe because I am an international student, but at the end of the day I got disqualified. So is there like a way out there for international students or graduate teaching assistants? We do not earn too much to afford childcare, and at the same time, we have to go to school and all of those. Thank you.
Yes, great question. And we can connect afterwards, and I will give you someone's name and contact information. We do have requirements through the state of Texas, through the Texas Workforce Commission, on determining eligibility for childcare. So there could be some challenges with whatever documentation or verification of records or whatever that may be. But let me work with you offline and let me see how I can help you. Okay, you bet.
This was very insightful, so thank you, and I'm excited about the website. My question is, for a person that may not work in the state of Texas but want to work in the state of Texas, would they still be able to contact you and use the resources?
Absolutely. And just so you all know, there are workforce boards across the country. So what you could do is also wherever your residence is, there's a workforce development board in and around that county. You can also work with them and then be transferred to us and the workforce board in the county in which you live here. So yes, you can certainly reach out. There might be some things related to residency getting set up, but yes, you can access that as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You bet.
Hello, I'm a veteran in the Army Reserves. I just came up on my ETS date, so what are some, I guess, examples of how you help your veterans coming out of the military?
You bet. So a lot of the times we work, and I'll just say really quickly, our son is in the 82nd Airborne, so pretty excited about that. He's jumping out of planes, and he's been gone for a few days, so we're like, oh, I hope he's okay. But anyways, thank you for your service. Really appreciate it. So what we do is we sit down with that individual, that veteran, or even if they're still active in the military and they're looking to transition, and we do a crosswalk of, and I'm going to get it all wrong, just so you know, but you know the military have a vernacular that doesn't necessarily translate to our vernacular out in the civilian world. And so what we do in our workforce veterans, we have Veterans Commission Services staff, and we are articulating, you may have this, but it doesn't necessarily articulate to what they say I'll just make it up. I'm going to make it up. An aircraft mechanic here, right? Because it's different that you were doing whatever in the military. We then work to do the crosswalk to say, no, but they actually have these certifications, these licenses. They actually likely have more transferable skills than what the civilian job description is actually asking for. So we really work hand in hand to make sure that we can do that warm and direct handoff, because we understand how valuable veterans are and the skills that they have to enter into the civilian workplace. So it is really about going into our workforce centers. You have individual Veterans Commission Services staff who will meet with you and really start looking at your military career, your skills, any certifications, and then they will start to match you with employers who actually favor working with transitioning veterans or military personnel. So we're pretty excited. In fact, we continue to see the number going up with the veterans who we're helping. And if I remember correctly, when we were just doing hiring Red, White, and U events, so we do 2 of those in our board area every year, but these are events that are particularly bringing in employers who want to hire veterans. Now, it's open to the public, but we do a specific hiring event for veterans. We, I think, in the state of Texas have 1.5 million veterans. That's a significant number of veterans. Those are awesome workforce professionals. And so it's up for us then to figure out how do we get them into the civilian workplace, and that's how we do it through the workforce centers. Yeah, thank you for your service. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Absolutely, and I would love to. Thank you for that question. So happy to share that the North Central Texas Council of Governments, which actually oversees the 16 counties, inclusive of Dallas and Tarrant counties, we and our Workforce Development Board, the Tarrant Workforce Development Board, and the Dallas Workforce Development Board, we are part of a 29-county consortium that is focused on all the growth that's happening in the semiconductor industry up in the Sherman area. It is not going to let loose any point in time soon. In fact, semiconductor industry elements show up all across the state of Texas, particularly down in Austin with Samsung, as we know, but we are getting the lion's share as well, all the way up into the Oklahoma, southern area of Oklahoma, all the way down and down even here into Erath County. And so I can share that these are incredible occupations. We have heard and been working with a lot of the semiconductor industry professionals that they are really looking for high school students to enter into the workforce, and you make $70,000 fully benefited on the spot. They do all the training. That's incredible. Where does that happen? That doesn't happen very often anymore. And this is where the significant growth is happening, particularly throughout the state of Texas, of course, but we're seeing a lot of it in the north central Texas and lower Oklahoma state area as well. With all the wafer fabs that are coming online, it is really about connecting with the workforce, but I'll tell you where the education piece comes in. We have to do a better job of sharing in the education space that these jobs are available. And that's so much of what's happening right now, is that the workforce and the occupations are evolving at such a fast pace that, yes, we still want policemen and we still want teachers, and there's a whole other world of occupations out there. So we in workforce need to work more closely with our educators who have a direct influence and contact with our future workforce in the education spaces, to let them know that these are growth industries that are happening, that are clamoring for workforce, and you don't have to spend years and years and years to receive more and more education credentials. You can actually hire in, and there is significant growth that happens in those wafer fabs as well. The other attractive piece about that, again, with the significant starting salary fully benefited, is they're not 5-day-a-week jobs. We're seeing that there's a lot more of the probably 5 days on, take about 3 days off, 10 days on, you can take more days off, and they're flexible work schedules as well, hours if you will. So there's a lot of flexibility in the semiconductor profession, and I think we just need to do a much better job of showing the youth and explaining what this career pathway looks like, because it's very lucrative. Yeah, you bet. Any other questions for me? No? Okay. Well, I thank you for showing up again. I know it's a beautiful day, but I also just want to applaud each and every one of you for your commitment to being here today to participate in this symposium. I hope that I was able to provide very insightful information, but I congratulate you on where you're currently at, and I wish each and every one of you the best of luck as you move forward. Thank you so much for having me today.
So you'll be continuing the discussion, but more focused on workforce readiness in the concurrent session. And so we have 3 concurrent sessions. We'll be starting at about 4:30.
And I hope to share with each and every one of you conversations and tips from employers and industry who we work with that will hopefully be extremely beneficial to all of you as you start to look at what your next career path is. So hope to see you soon. Thank you.